Philippines is Asia's brightest star this year. It was awarded investment-grade status by 3 global ratings agencies and is already Southeast Asia's fastest-growing country. Earlier today, I spoke with Finance Secretary César Purisima about what's next for the Philippines economy. Thank you very much for joining us. Earlier this month, Moody's upgraded the Philippines to investment-grade status. What are the main drivers of the Philippines' growth story?
As the President says, it's about better governance. Since he came to office, he's brought in better governance that has inspired more confidence from the financial markets, from our own domestic investors, as well as some foreign investors, as well as our own people. This has meant lower borrowing costs that freed up a major portion of the budget for more productive expenses. This has meant more investments and longer-term investments by businessmen in the country. And finally, better tax compliance, because people now believe that it pays to pay taxes because it is ultimately good for them. The Philippines is a blessed country. It has a lot of potential. The key really was to unleash it by addressing the constraints. And the main constraint was governance.
President Aquino has been credited for putting the Philippines back on investors' radar. But what will happen after he steps down in 2016?
I think the important thing is over the next 3 years that we sustain what we've done during the first 3 years of Aquino's administration, so that the people will really feel the difference between good and bad governance in their own lives. And I think we're starting to see it. When President Aquino came to power, a lot of Filipinos somehow gave up that government can be good. Now that they've seen that government can be good, they actually want more. They want it faster. They want changes almost immediate. And I think that's ultimately going to be one of the major legacies of President Aquino, that one, he's made people feel empowered and believe that government can be good. And I think this is ultimately going to be the assurance that this can be sustained beyond President Aquino's term, because the people will be the one to demand that governance become an issue in the next election.
There's been a lot of concern about what's happening in the United States at the moment. And you recently expressed concern about the possibility of the U.S. defaulting on its debt. Why are you so worried, and what does that mean for the Philippines?
Well, we live in one global world right now, interconnected world. Our markets are 24 hours, they're connected to each other. The U.S. is the world's reserve currency. It's the one considered risk-free asset. And a default was, and that's why it's called risk-free, because default was unthinkable. And if it happens, I think it will create unprecedented turmoil. One that I think is many times that of what happened during the global economic crisis. So I do hope that the U.S. politicians see that one, that they have implications, what they're doing has implications beyond their border. Two, that they're actually benefiting from being the global reserve currency in terms of lower borrowing costs. As a result of being a global reserve currency, the standard of life, the quality of life of Americans have improved. And if they default, that can increase their cost moving forward by 1 to 2%. And with a debt base of 12 trillion, that's like 120 to 240 billion additional cost just for the government. What more the other private sector? So I think one thing is very clear. What is at stake here is so much bigger than what they're fighting about. And I hope that they realize that.